Okay, so today we will be looking at we are going to continue with our tutorial session, and we are going to be looking at the types of technologies. We continue with type of technology stacks. Last time I talked about the front end, and I talked about the front end where I showed what the various technologies that we use at the back front end are, and I made mention of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So today, without wasting much time, I want to go straight into the back end part of types of technology stacks. So I might just cover the back end and the database, because the database should be part of the back end stuff. So that is what I will be covering. So to start off with, let me just give an overview of what we do, or the type of programming languages we use at the back end. So at the back end, there are several programming languages we make use of when we work at the back end. And some of them have been listed here. We have the C#, we have the PHP, we have Python, and we have Java, we have Go. So we have many programming languages you can use on the front end. So personally, I'm a .NET guy. I like developing back-end application using .NET, but I'm equally very comfortable with every programming languages, every back-end programming language. So yeah. And the framework that you make use of at the back end is, for me personally, because I'm doing C#, I use ASP.NET Core. ASP.NET is the framework you use when you want to work with C#. Like PHP, if you are working with PHP, then a typical framework you could make use of is your Laravel. Laravel is the most popular PHP framework. We have things like Zend and is it Cupcake or KikiCup? Then Django is a framework you can use when you want to build a Python backend application. So Django provides you with a framework. Like I said in my front end tutorial, a framework is basically a prefabricated software. It's a prefabricated Python software that has everything. So once you download that framework, you now start working on top of the framework. So that is the explanation of what framework is. So what do we really do at the back end? So in a typical architecture, your software could be broken into several parts, or into three parts mainly: your front end, your back end, and your database. So what really happens? Let's use this as an illustration. I have this simple form. This is a simple form I want to use for this backend illustration. And then this form, you fill this form on the front end. So this form is what displays on your mobile phone or your laptop, then you fill in this form. When you submit this form, the form is sent to the back end. If you are building, if the back end is a web service, then you'll be sending this form from the front end to the back end via your REST, your HTTP. HTTP is the protocol that the browser uses to communicate with the server. So you send the message to the back end via HTTP. Then at the back end, what does the back end do with this message? Primarily, if your job is to just take this message and save it to the database. So what the backend does is to take this message and save it to the database. Let's assume that this is the simplest thing you want to do at the backend. Take the message, save it to the database. But mainly, that's not really the main reason why we have another part of the system that we call the backend. The backend is primarily where you implement your business logic. So pure and simple, this is where you implement all your business logic. Let's go back to the reason why we are designing a software in the first place. Why are we building a software? Like I said in my first tutorial, the main purpose of building a software is usually to support the business. A business could be a for-profit business or a non-profit business, or all the whole organizations have categorized them as a business. So it could be non-profit or whatever, but it's a business in my own definition. And the reason why you are building a software for a business is to support the operations of the business. It could be the customer-facing operations of the business, or the back end part of the business. But you are building software to support the business, and every business has a rule that the business plays by. That is what we call the business rule or business logic. For example, let me give you an example of a business rule or a business logic. Like if you have an airplane business, an airplane company, and an airplane company has, let's say, let me use an example. Well, I don't want to use, let me not call a name before somebody will sue me to court. So let's just use an ABC, the company, let's say ABC. This is an airplane company, ABC. So this guy operates an airline business, and within his airline business, he has so many customers. So we have a category of customers that he has categorized as the premium customers. And he has said that, okay, for these my premium customers, I want to treat them preferentially. I want to treat them like, give them a royalty treatment. I want to treat them preferentially. So what type of preferential treatment does the company wants to give its premium account holders? It might say, okay, I want to for, let's say, the last 2 months of the year, for every last 2 months of the year, I want to give my premium customers a 20% discount on their flight. You see, that is a classical business logic, a classical business rule. And if you are building a software that models the business, that supports the business operation, then in your software, you will also need to implement that business rule or that business logic. So we have, let's say, like I said in the example, that we have an airline company, and we want the airline company and the airline company has a category of its customer. It has categorized as what? Premium customers. So, and it wants to give those premium customers 20% discount at the end of the last 2 months, for the last 2 months of every year. So that particular logic, that particular business rule is what if you are going to implement a software that supports that business, that rule is what you implement in your back end. You see, so that is essentially the kind of stuff your back end does. That's the primary. In fact, if I don't want to start going deep into, but there is a software development methodology which is basically what I use and I like using. It's called domain-driven development. So if you are building a software, what you are essentially doing is to take a business and all its operation and all the business processes and all the logic and all the actors, and then model that business as a software. That is essentially what you are doing as a business line of business software developer. So, and the rules of the business, if you are modeling the business within the software, the rules that governs that business has to be implemented in the back end. So that is what you do in your back end. So your back end is not just primarily just something that takes information from the front end and saves information on the database. No, your back end implements the business rule of the business, the software representation of the business rule of the business you are modeling. That's what the back end does. So if you take this form and fill this form in your front end and submit, click on your front end, you will see this form. When you fill this form, you submit your form, it gets to the back end. If there is any business rule, let's say in this form, what I want to do in this form is, if I submit this form, my back end application will calculate the tax rate there is a tax on rent. I want to calculate the tax on the rent. This is the first name, last name, the country, and then annual rent. I want the back end. I want to calculate if I'm saving this information, I also want to save the tax on this annual rent. But the person filling this form does not need to do the calculation. I want the system to do the calculation for me. This type of rule, this type of calculation is what happens. That's what you can do at the back end. That's what you usually do at the back end. So what the back end will do is it will take this rate, take this country, take the annual rent and the country, and then it will look up you might have a place where you store for every country what is the tax rate on their rent, the annual rental tax rate. You look at it. The backend knows where to get that information. That information may be on a database or just like or stored as a file. Then the backend will use this country, the country code, and get the tax rate, and then multiply the tax rate with the rent, and then generate the effective tax, and then save all this information with the tax on the database. So this calculation of getting the country code, calculating the tax, and saving the tax, that's the kind of thing you do at the back end. At the back end as well, you perform there are other things you can do at the back end. You might decide to check, you might decide to look at, security. Does this guy sending me this form, has he registered? Has he logged in? So these are the kind of stuff you can do at the back end. You can equally do that on the front end. On the front end, if I want to implement authorization or authentication, what I will do is I will prevent unregistered users or unauthorized users from having access to the page that has this file, has this form. But let's leave that aside. So on your back end, you do several stuff. You implement business rule, you implement business logic, you implement calculations, you update the model, you update the database, you check for authorization and authentication of the request that is coming in. So these are some of the things you perform. That is what you do at the back end. Like I said, you are modeling a business. In most of the cases, you are not doing a to-do application. Even if you are doing a to-do application, you need to do some more. But in real line, like if you go to work for Uber, if you go to work for Google, if you go to work for Goldman Sachs, if you go to work for a bank, if you go to work for any of these businesses that use software to support their operation, and you want to go there and work as a back end, this is the type of things you'll be doing at the back end, implementing the logic of the business. That's what you do at the back end. So to go further with the back end, I just want to show inside a back end, your back end is structured accordingly. And like I said earlier on, the method I use to develop my software is called domain-driven development. This is the method. In fact, when I started learning software, I just stumbled upon the method, and I just felt this must be the best way to design software. And since then, I've read so many books, and I've even read the book of the guy that originated the methodology, and that's what I use basically if I'm developing most of the work I'm doing. The thinking and the philosophy is what I use. So within the back end, your backend can be structured. There are so many architectures. There are so many ways you can structure your backend. But personally, I use domain-driven development methodology to structure my backend. And so within my backend, I have, just to make things a bit simpler, I have 4 components of your backend. So we have the controller, we have the service, we have the repository, and we have the database. I will explain each of these things. Then there is also something I've not mentioned. There is also the domain or the model. Let's include the model. We usually call it domain model, but we have so many types of model. So I want to call this domain model. What is a domain model? A domain model is a representation of the physical existence of what you want to model as your software. Like the physical existence of an item, let's say a book. The physical book, if you are modeling a bookstore, the book is a physical representation. Then in your software representation, you can represent that book as a book model. So if I have a physical book, then I will have the representation of that physical book in my software is what we usually refer to as a model. Pure and simple. So let's say this everything is an object. Let's say this is the remote control I used to operate this camera. This is the physical existence of it. In my software, if I'm modeling all this, the operation of my remote and my camera, I will model this as my remote model. In my software, I will call it remote, and maybe I'll put model just to know that it's a remote model. But we have within the software, within your backend, we have several models. But the model that represents the physical thing you are talking about is what we call domain model. And when you are doing domain-driven development, your domain model is the heart, is the main thing you are modeling, because that is the physical, that is the software representation of your problem domain. Yeah. So we have the domain model like this form. Let me just call this form 1. Form 1. This is a form. This is a form that I'm filling. In my backend, I will represent this form as a model. We call it form 1 model. This is the way I like putting my model in my backend. So everything can be represented as a model. And a model is basically, if you look at this thing as a form, in fact, the easiest way to look at things is to look at everything as a form. So look at this model as a form. Look at this form you fill here as a form. Look at the way you store this form in your database as a form. So, and if you look at things as a form, it becomes very easy to understand some of these concepts. For example, if I have a form, let's say I have a form. This is just a simple stuff. This is just, let's assume this is a form. Then I fill this form on the front end. I put in the value, key in the values. Let's say this form represents this. I fill in this form on the front end. Then when I hit submit, the browser will send this form to the back end. Then the controller, let's use this way. Then the controller will receive this form. So I just want to assume that, let's assume that everything is a form. Everything in computer is a form. So the controller will receive this form. And once the controller receives this form, if I don't want to do anything, if I just want to save it to the database, the controller will take this form, create a copy of this form, and save that copy to the database. This is just an illustration to show how things work. You fill this form on the front end and submit. Then the browser takes this form and sends the form to the back end. The back end takes the form, perform all these calculations, and take the form and save the form to the database. So that's the way to look at it. If you look at it this way, it becomes a lot easier. So if you forget about, if you just blank out on all the big terminology and look at it as if everything as a form, you feel, and that's basically what you do. That's what everything we do as software developers. Everything can be thought of as a form. Like if I have products I want to display on my front end, it will be like so many forms, like if I have 10 products I want to display on my front end, the database will bring those 10 products. Then my back end will take all those products. I'm saving this product as a form in my database. So the database will bring those forms. Let's say I want to display 10 products. And each of those products, I want to display all the information about the product as a form. So the database will bring those 10 products as 10 forms, and then I will take those 10 forms and display them on the front end. So that is basically the thinking. It's very easy to wrap one's head around. So if we look at everything as a form, you fill this form on the front end, you submit this form to the back end via HTTP. The back end takes this form, implement, check if everything is correct, or do some calculation, and then save this form to the database. That is exactly what that as a software developer, that's what you'll be doing all the time. But I just use this as an illustration. So the form representation on the back end is usually the model. So like if you take this form, send it to the back end, the representation of this form in the back end is usually what we call the model. So now let me just run across some of these components on the back end just to show you what. Then within your back end we have four main components, and that's what you will be talking about almost all your life as a developer. So we have the controller, we have the service, we have the repository, we have the database, and then we have a model that we call domain model. So what we do is, once you send this form, once you fill in this form and submit this form, the controller is basically the gateway to your back end. So your controller is the gateway to your back end. The controller receives the form, and within the controller will check, okay, the controller will first of all check if you have the right to submit this form. So it will check for authentication and authorization. Authentication checks if you have logged in as a user into the system, because every physical user has he or she's representation on the software system. So if you log into the system, the software know, okay, this guy has logged into the system. So if you are sending information to the back end, the controller checks if you have been authenticated. If you have been authenticated, the back end now checks, do you have the authority to give me this form? So authentication is different from authorization. You can be authenticated within the system, but you might not really be authorized to access all the various parts of the system. So the controller checks if you have been authenticated. If you have been authenticated, it will check if you have been authorized. If you have been authorized, then it will take the form. Usually your controller should not really do much work. Your controller, using the methodology I use for my back-end development, which is domain-driven development, your controller should not really do much work apart from this authentication and authorization checking. So once the controller assesses that yes, this guy has the right authentication and the right authorization, it now sends this form to the service. Now the service is where you implement all the business rule. So if you come to the back end, it is within this service that you implement basically all the whole business rule. This is where you implement business rule. Like if you also want to, let's say if the tax code, if the country tax code is in another server, is in another system, and you want to call that system, it is from the service that you will call that system to get information you need. So the service handles the core business rule of the backend system you are developing. It also handles issues like all the infrastructural issues, like if you want to send an email, let's say if I receive this form, if I need to send an email to the person that filled this form, of course I should be able to do that, I should do that, okay, your form has been processed and saved. It is in this service, after performing everything and doing everything, and saving in the database, that an email will be sent to the server, to the person that filled the form, informing the person that his form has been saved properly. So basically your service is where you do most of the work you do within your back end. So your service does what? Business rule. This is where you implement your business rule. And this is where you implement infrastructural concern, like if you want to send an email, if you want to call another software, another service running in a different server using HTTP core, you do that within your service. You see, so after you have performed all the calculation and everything is set to save in the database, you don't save it directly to the database from the service. You pass that information to the repository. The repository has the responsibility to now talk to the database. So our service does not talk directly to the database. Our service talks with the repository. Once it has finished everything, let's use our form illustration. Once the service part of the backend finishes everything, it will now take that form and then give it to the repository. The repository does not really do any work. All the work that the repository does is to take the form and save to the database. That is what the repository does. Your repository takes the form that it is accepting from the service module of the backend and just saves it to the database. And if I want to get that form, let's say if I have a requirement on the front end to get all the forms that have been filled by users, of course it should be part of the administrative part of every software. So if I save a form, what happens is that if I save a form to the database will assign a number to the form I'm saving in the database. And what happened is that it could send, let's say if I'm the administrator and you fill this form, so the database will send me an email with, let's say, the ID of this form, the identifier, the identification number of this form. So if I want to get all the information about that particular form, so I will what I will do is I will send a message to my backend, please get me the form that has this particular identification number. So I will send the message from my front end. Usually what happens is that we have the client, we have basically two types of front end. If you are building a complete full business application, we have the client front end and we have the admin front end. Admin front end is basically the front end part of the front end that allows the owner of that software to administer the software. So if I want to see the form that this guy filled, if this guy filled the form gets to the back end saves the form to the database and also inform me, maybe send me a notification on my own front end, not the customer's front end, my administrator front end, telling me that, okay, there is a file that has been saved in the database and the ID of that file is let's say 20. So if I want to see all the details of that file, what I will do is that I will instruct the back end, please get me the form, the details of this form that has this ID of 20. So that information will arrive at the controller. Now the controller will, as usual, will not really do anything. The controller will know, of course, I am the administrator, I have all the authority, I have the authentication to request for that information. So the controller will pass that message to my service. My service will say, okay, the repository, get me the file that has this ID. Then the repository will say, okay, go to the database and say, okay, call the database and get the information from the database and then send the information back to the service. The service will now send the information back to the controller and the controller will now give me the information. So let me just illustrate how these things work. So I have my controller, I have my service, I have my repository, I have my database. So if I have this is my admin front end. So if I have a notification, that a message that there is a form that has been saved that has an ID of 20. So if I want to get that ID, maybe there will be a button that will say get form detail. There is a button. So if I click that button, get form detail, a message will be sent to the controller with the. So let me just conclude. So the video stopped abruptly. So let me just conclude. I think the thing is taking too much time. So so I just want to illustrate the flow. Let's say once the user fills the form and submit the form, the administrator gets a notification that the form has been submitted. In the notification that the administrator is receiving, there will be the ID, the identifier of that form that has been saved in the database. So if the administrator wants to see the details of the form, it will request for that. It will ask the backend system to retrieve the details. So what it does is that it sends a message to the backend. The controller receives the message and pass the message to the service. The service receives the message and pass the message to the repository. Then the repository processes the message and gets the information from the database. The database sends the information back to the repository. The repository sends the information back to the service. The service maybe do some calculation and some purification or something of that nature, and then send the information back to the controller. The controller will now send the information back to the administrator. The administrator will now see the information. So that is the kind of flow. There are like if the message, there is a pattern we call request. I don't want to start going too deep in some of request response pattern. So there is a request model. I don't want to start going deep into this thing. There is a request model and there is a response model. So the information I will be sending will be wrapped inside the request model. And once the backend finishes whatever it is doing, it should give me a response model. But I don't really want to start going into this. So to summarize, I don't want the video has gone too long. To summarize, our backend is the heart of the business system. This is where you implement all your business rule and business logic, or the way the business functions in real life. The representation of that real life business within your software happens at the back end. And like I said, the methodology that I like using to represent complex domain, like if I want to model like insurance business, insurance company, or if I want to model like oil operation, oil refinery operation, if I want to model all the whole oil refinery operation, or if I want to model the whole banking operation of a bank, then the methodology, standard methodology we use in doing that is domain-driven design. It's a method that was invented by a powerful guy called Eric Evans. So that's the method I use. In fact, that's the method I use personally. I use it for almost all my application. It might not be as detailed, but at the basic structure of how to lay out your code. And the good thing about methodologies is that if you start learning software using all these methodologies, it becomes very easy. Like personally, me, most of the jobs I do apply, they will ask you, okay, can you do some sample project? And I will lay my project pure and clean using all these domain-driven design methodology. And there has never been any person I submitted my projects to that does not give me a job. In fact, they will give me, if I'm applying for ordinary software developer, they usually give me senior software developer because of the way I structure and plan my things. It is easier to advance very fast if you start learning with all these top-level methodologies. So domain-driven design, you can always Google domain-driven design and see what happens. So the way you structure your code if you are doing domain-driven design is what I've laid out here. And I've said we have the domain model, we have the controller, we have the service, we have the repository, we have the database. This is the structure. If you come to domain-driven design, I will be doing some tutorials on domain-driven design. We have so many things you will touch on, but for the sake of this simple tutorial, this is the way I've shown you what your backend does, how to do the backend, and what it should result from, how your business will kind of like be structured within the backend. So that's the theoretical part of this session. I might do a practical part of this session just to demonstrate all these. So we will still use this form in our practical session. We'll just create a simple application, that we capture user information within this form and save that information in the database. Simple application. Capture users information from this form and then save this form to the database. And maybe we might do like a CRUD of the basic operations you perform within your software system is called CRUD. You create let's say a resources in your database. Then you can read that resources, you can update that resources, and you can delete that resources. So that's what CRUD is: create, read, update, and delete. So like for this form, if I'm creating this form, I'm creating and submitting, I'm performing create operation. If I want to bring this, if I'm requesting for this form detail from my administrator portal, I am performing a read operation. If I am updating this form, let's say if this person is a female and maybe she gets married and wants to change her name, then you will update this detail, you update the name, and then you update. Then when you do that, you are performing update operation. Then if this person does not really, maybe he does not live in this country again, he has relocated to other country and this information needs to be deleted, or he doesn't need this information to be in the backend system, he can delete this. So when you delete this, you are performing a delete operation. So these are the basic fundamental operations you perform for every software system. You create a resources, you read the resources, you update the resources, and you delete the resources. So you have to know this basic backend or basic CRUD. They may ask you, if you go out for an interview, they might ask you what is a CRUD operation. CRUD operation, CRUD operation. It's create, read, update, and delete. So it's the normal operation you perform. So I think that is all. We'll go back to, I will do the practical session. And in the practical session, as I said, I will just demonstrate how to create this form. We just do the simple ASP.NET Core application, MVC application with this form, and I'll show you what the controller does, and I will show you the service and the repository. Then maybe as you start going forward, sometimes you might not want to. I will explain that during I want to talk about object relational mapper, but I think it might be a ORM. It's called ORM. Sometimes you don't want the repository to talk directly to your database. So sometimes you don't want this guy to talk directly to your database. So you now install what we call a package here that we call ORM. ORM stands for Object Relational Mapper. So it takes your object, the model you want to save, and then does the saving operation for you. If you are not going to use Object Relational Mapper, then you will be writing SQL. You'll be using SQL. You'll be using SQL to write how your form will be saved to the database. But if you use ORM, then the ORM will automatically do the SQL programming and all the rest for you. So that is one benefit of using ORM. Like me personally, I write everything with my hand, I don't use ORM. I don't know why. I worked with this guy. I worked with this powerful software developer as a senior software engineer with a US client, and the main architect. The system was too complex that we didn't want to use ORM. So and since then, I've not been using ORM. I've been writing program. I do my SQL programming with my hand, and So, but if you don't want to do that, you can use ORM. Yeah, I think that's all. So thank you very much for listening to that. I will do the practical session and maybe combine the practical session with this video. If this video is too large, then we might just do the practical session as a separate video. But I think that is all. Thank you very much.